Now, did you audition for The Village, or was that truly that
you are
he
not going to believe this.
saw you?
Okay. So I did a series of plays. I did not audition.
Yeah.
I asked to audition. He
Really?
wouldn't let me audition.
Wouldn't let you.
I'll tell you why. So I left school.
We're talking about M. Night Shyamalan.
We're talking about M. Night Shyamalan.
Okay.
Incredible man. Started my career.
Yeah.
In film. And so I was doing a string of shows. I had left school. I had taken a leave of absence from school. And the last show that I did was As You Like It.
Okay.
And it was at the Public Theater, which is known for Shakespeare. And so, and I was playing Rosalind, which is Rosalind is the female character who has the most lines out of any Shakespearean play.
Yes.
And I got cast last minute because the actor who originated the role, this was like it had been like brought there. It was a show that had existed previously somewhere else. She booked a pilot and she had to go and do the pilot. And so there was a week and a half to learn the whole thing.
That's insane, by the way.
It was insane. And so I did it not well. Okay.
So, which is interesting.
Keep listening. Keep listening.
Okay.
Stay with me here, Katie. Stay with me. Everyone else had done this show. They were so dialed in, and I was not.
Yeah.
And it was a learning curve. And I was 21, and it was very, 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 very hard. And but I was like determined.
Mm-hmm.
And the opening night happened, and I gave the performance, and I knew that it wasn't working. And my friend, one of my best friends, said to me, he waited afterwards, and he didn't say anything to me. And I finally was like, so what did you think? So again, this is a character that has the most lines.
Yes.
He goes, you know, when you said, I conjure you?
Mm-hmm.
I said, yeah. He goes, that I believed. And so the next morning I woke up to a review in the New York Times that was incredibly fair.
Yeah.
Where they were like, it's a great show. The cast is great. You know, everyone's great. It's so inventive. The director, great. It's a shame about the Rosalind. And I will never forget this. I read that, and I was in my apartment, and I had to walk to a matinee. And I started walking, and it was like, heavy.
Yeah.
And then by the time I got to the Public Theater, I was like so light because I was like, I got a terrible review. That's like one of the worst things that can happen. Like by the New York Times, as a young woman, as the lead. Like
it's done now.
Like, oh my gosh. And I'm, they might fire me, but I actually don't think they will because they know like everyone's trying hard here. And so like, I'm okay. Like I got through that. And I showed up, and everyone was so, of course, sweet and like protective and felt bad. And I was like, listen, no, I'm still getting there. Like, guys, like they were right.
For like a week and a half for them to not have ripped you apart, like to just make it, that was actually really kind that all they said was, you know what I mean?
Oh, geez.
Like if we look at it in like retrospect, you're like, that's actually like, it's a shame about Rosalind.
Exactly. Okay. But I was like, I know, like, I was like, oh no. And so it freed me. And suddenly what would have become a very locked in performance, because sort of after like opening day, you're just supposed to kind of lock it in. I was still discovering and playing. And a week into the performances, I looked out in the audience and I saw a man in a white shirt, and it was like, he was like glowing. And I was like, holy shit, that's M. Night Shyamalan. And I walked backstage, and I had this thought, and it was like I'm going to do a movie with him. What? And the performance was good that night.
I love it.
I mean, the performance was kind of outstanding.
Right.
And Knight waited afterwards, and he was like, I would love to talk with you about, like, I would love to like speak with you sometime. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. That's great.
Like,
like really nice. Like, well, not even that. I was just like, thanks. But I wasn't taking it seriously. Like I didn't actually think it would amount to anything, even though I had that fleeting thought. Yeah. And the show ended and a few weeks went by. And also while the show had been going, someone who eventually was in charge of As You Like It, the movie that I did with Kenneth Branagh, saw the performance, and someone who eventually cast me in Lars von Trier's movie, which was my second movie. So
saw that one performance, or just the run. Got it. Okay.
I got once I got the bad review, I was like, okay, we're gonna figure this out. Like I don't need to impress anyone anymore. Like, let's get this Shakespeare
Roslyn. Here we
go. Exactly. And so I ultimately, ironically, my next 4 jobs came directly from that performance that had only a week prior been panned appropriately by the New York Times. And so it was a big deal. A few weeks later, Knight reached out to my agent and was like, I would love to meet with her. I assumed it was going to be that he was going to ask me questions about how to raise kids in Hollywood. I thought that that's what he was going to.
I love that you, in your mind, were like, this is my expertise.
Yeah.
I understand this.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
I've done this.
Yes. Yeah. They're like, how are you okay? You know what I mean?
You probably write a book, though. That'll be one of the books that Seth finds at some point. It'll be How to Raise Kids in Hollywood by Bryce Dallas.
I mean, my God, truly. And I assumed it was that. And he didn't need to ask that question. They had that all sorted.
Yeah.
But at the meeting, he was kind of sharing with me. And at the time, he was 33 years old himself. And he was sharing with me about, his career and his process. And he was being really vulnerable and really sweet. And I was like, wow, this is what a meeting. What a general. Incredible.
Amazing.
And he reaches into his bag and he pulls out a manila envelope and he pushes it across the table. And he's like, I don't know how to ask you this, but I would love for you to be the lead of my next movie. And I said to him, don't you want me to audition?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, no, because if you're not good, they won't let me cast you.
Amazing.
So I did not audition.
He didn't want to take the chance.
He didn't want to take the chance at them saying no.
Amazing.
And it was the fact that I remember at the time when I told my dad what had happened, he didn't really believe me. Meredith, my agent, didn't really believe me. Like she was like, because I was like, I can't send you the script, but it's a really big part.
It's a part. It's a legitimate movie.
and they're like, yeah. And when folks understood, they were just like, no one does this.
No, it doesn't happen like that.
Knight, talk about someone using their position to lift up someone else.
Right.
And it's, and then on top of it, let me just a little Knight love fest for a second. On top of that, so many things that I have not encountered ever again that were beautiful. He was very involved with making sure that I was paid well.
Really?
Not just on the first movie, but on Lady in the Water.
That doesn't happen. Most creators and most producers and writers and anyone who has anything to do with a movie, like the creator or a project, they don't get involved with business affairs.
They're like, no.
I don't want to know. They probably have no idea what you're actually getting paid.
Yeah.
Unless it cuts into their budget so much that they're angry.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It was like the opposite of a negotiation. It was like, obviously, minimum wage. What? No, you're going to be number one on the call sheet. And so no, we're going to do this because I don't want it. That would be taking advantage. I'm like,
amazing.
What?
Yeah.
Really? Don't get me wrong. It was like,
of course.
Now I know like what it could have been. And that it was like such a huge deal for him to even like $1 more than minimum wage is a giant deal.
Yes, it is.
Giant
because that's
deal.
breaking the studio. That's breaking business affairs.
Totally.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't just $1 more.
Yeah.
He was amazing. And so it was a really Like that experience on the whole for me, he was incredibly inclusive. He treated me in a very similar way to how I had been treated growing up in terms of I was allowed to tag along and observe anything that I wanted to. And so the storyboard process, the casting process, I mean, this is unheard of.
It's unheard of that, especially for someone that's not been in the industry, getting to be involved in all of this stuff is crazy. That doesn't happen.
Completely.
Yeah. And it reminds me of Jon Favreau, actually.
It's totally like John. Completely. Yeah. Completely. Like, welcome. You want to learn? Come here.
Yeah. What's your opinion? I would love to hear what you think about this because I could be wrong. Like, I love that.
Yeah. And so it was amazing because he, like, for 6 months in advance of shooting the movie, I was consistently going out to he has like a farm basically. Yeah. And I was going out there and I was rehearsing and getting to understand the movie and his vision. And so by the time I was on set, like I was prepared.
Right.
I would have let you in that way anyway, but he let me in on a level that was so much more than I've ever experienced even since probably, you know? And I've been very lucky, I have to say, like, I've been so lucky with filmmakers. So lucky.
Yeah.